The New South Wales Greens are one of the most secretive political parties in the country. But in a rare interview, a senior Greens politician has broken ranks, saying the party is led by unaccountable officials and needs to reform. A 7:30 investigation's uncovered a number of resignations, a Supreme Court lawsuit and even evidence that police have been called in. As Connor Duffy reports, the row comes as the federal Greens face a major challenge to maintain their vote and influence.
Love is a powerful force, and it's a powerful force for good.
The Australian Greens preach a new, kinder and gentler way of doing politics.
My kids are going to be so jealous.
But behind closed doors, party factions are preparing for war, and it centres on the party's most radical branch, the New South Wales chapter.
Clearly the National Greens have had worries about the New South Wales Greens for a while.
We've seen big swings to the Greens in so many seats in this election. In the Senate...
On election night, Greens leader Richard Di Natale did his best to put a positive spin on a disappointing result, especially in the troubled New South Wales branch. What he wasn't saying was that throughout the campaign, the New South Wales Greens had been busier fighting themselves rather than their opponents.
Instead of those tensions playing out in a constructive way, I think the phase that we're in at the moment is those tensions playing out in a very unproductive way, where people, instead of trying to work these things through, will end up, causing a media shitstorm in order to try and win the internal battle.
The Condamine River in southwest Queensland on fire. The fracking just a kilometre away.
Jeremy Buckingham is part of a new breed of New South Wales Greens who know how to grab attention. In a rare TV interview, he's broken ranks to call for change.
I'm held to account by my party. I welcome that. I'm elected by the members. The key office bearers, who have a lot of authority now in a growing organisation, should be subject to the same scrutiny.
So they are occupying Palestinian land, effectively frontline troops.
His opponents have controlled the party for decades. They're part of an old guard led by Senator Lee Rhiannon and known as the Watermelons because they're accused of being more red than green.
You could say they're the old left who migrated to the Greens. I've no doubt that many of them have a sincere commitment to environmental issues, but they're probably not at the top of their agenda. What they would call social justice or radical issues are probably at the top of their agenda.
Jeremy Buckingham hopes to break the power base of the old guard with an open vote for party officials that will blast them out of key decision-making positions.
What I want to see is democracy of our party. I want to see people participating in the decision-making, and that is the key foil to any factionalism that may emerge.
Buckingham does have support from Richard Di Natale and the federal leadership. It has long seen New South Wales as a thorn in the side of the party's ability to grow. So fraught is the relationship, Greens founding leader Bob Brown was recently compelled to speak out against Senator Lee Rhiannon and the New South Wales branch's resistance to having a leader.
These are normal, average, ordinary things that the public expects to see.
Well, if we don't have a leader, we don't have accountability. We have de facto leaders, and that's a real problem. We need to have accountability in leadership. We need to have defined roles so we know what their responsibilities are, and we assign them like a strategic task to engage with the membership, to be a focal point in election campaigns potentially. Any successful political party needs to deal maturely with differences of opinion, and
there have already been repercussions for Jeremy Buckingham speaking to 7:30, with opponents criticising him for talking to the media.
It's been a peculiarity of the Greens for a long time, as we know, that they don't like to talk to the media. Now, this is odd for a political party, and if there are major internal wranglings within the major parties, we expect we should know about them.
In a Greens Facebook group, some are calling for Buckingham's expulsion, and a staffer of rival Greens MP David Shoebridge called him a disgrace.
Are you aware that people are calling you a right-winger?
A lot of people have suggested I am right-wing. Well, that's just a joke. I'm as progressive as anyone in the Greens. I stand up for all those issues. I mean, I've campaigned on marriage equality in Dubbo. I've had death threats from people for campaigning for the rights of gay people in regional New South Wales.
The federal Greens need New South Wales to perform well. The Greens came dangerously close to losing several Senate seats, and the double dissolution election means many of their senators will again be up for re-election in 3 years.
In a few states, in fact probably in most states, the Greens vote will have to lift significantly if they want to return their senators and keep their numbers in the Senate as they currently are.
New South Wales could again jeopardise that. The party is being taken to the Supreme Court by former staffer Carol Metcalfe, who was at the helm of the New South Wales Greens management team. She'd been hired to professionalise the party. There were party heavyweights who didn't like her agenda, and right in the middle of the election campaign, they resorted to allegedly strong-arm tactics to push her out. A leaked internal management email reveals their plan.
Her presence at the Greens New South Wales will no longer be required or accepted.
Is that best practice?
No, it's not best practice, and I think it reveals something else that we kind of knew about the New South Wales Greens for a while, that they're vague about procedural questions.
Carol Metcalfe is fighting back. A leaked statement of claim shows she's taking the party to the Supreme Court for unlawful dismissal, seeking aggravated damages due to bullying. The party denies her claims and has accused her of misconduct.
There's no doubt that if you're in a public Supreme Court fight with your former senior-most officer, that will have an impact on internal party morale as well as the party's public image, and not in a good way.
The party will try to have the case thrown out of court tomorrow, but the damage has already been done. At the Greens' recent policy conference, Carol Metcalfe's supporters succeeded in blocking the entire annual state budget to deny the party money to fight Miss Metcalfe in court.
The fact that there are people willing to take the extraordinary step, I guess, of blocking the budget shows that there are people willing to cause a fight. People would only take that step if they wanted a bruising internal battle to keep going on.
That internal battle is bigger than the row over Carol Metcalfe. At its heart, there are fundamental differences over what sort of party the Greens should be. And the party faces a dilemma of how far it will go to attract the votes it needs to maintain its position as a powerful third force in politics.
Greens, Newtown MP,
Well, I think that if we implement reforms like democratising the party, developing a model of leadership, electing our office bearers, we'll be more successful. We've got too much at stake. We need to be a success, and being the champions of democracy is about that. Other parties are moving this way. We need to be at the leading edge of progressive reform.
Connor Duffy reporting.